everybody, I'm so glad you're here. This is my second project with the Potomac Beads treasure box for the month of November. It was called Leaf Season. If you didn't see my first video, oh my goodness, it's so gorgeous. I did this little peyote stitch base that is also the bail, and there was this beautiful, really slinky, really soft cotton cord in the box, and I just ran that through my bail and used some of the leaves and check glass and the Azuki seed beads to make this fringy little pendant, and it just turned out great. And this is a really beginner friendly project too, and a great way to practice your peyote stitch. So I'll link this video in case you didn't see it. But today I'm going to be using what is left of there were some beautiful Delica seed beads in the box, and I just absolutely love the color of these. And so I'm going to be using these to make some little cylinder beads, and I brought in some matte gold from my stash to create these the ends on these beads. And this is super easy. It takes less than 10 minutes to make one of these beads. And so I've turned one of them into an earring, and just, making my own little cylinder bead. These gorgeous cup buttons were in the box, so I decided to make a charm for my earrings out of the cup buttons. And I have brought in a few things from my stash. I've been pulling some spacer beads from this wonderful little spacer bead mix that I recently found. I absolutely love the square spacer beads in this, so I'll put a link for this in the description box. And I have some disc spacers here, and there's beautiful clasp was also in the box, and I just love the turquoise with the Picasso wash. So I also brought in some turquoise little tiny O beads to space out what is going to be my bracelet. So you will only need 5 beads for this bracelet and earring set if you want to make the set, but I've put 3 beads in my bracelet here, and these gorgeous orangey rondelles that were in the box look wonderful with a little pop of turquoise in between. And then I'm going to put this clasp on the bracelet. But before I make the bracelet, and you might have noticed, I am stringing on my antique brass color of my metallic Softflex 49 strand. I really love that bead stringing wire. And you will need a number 10 or 11 beading needle, works really well for this. And just a little, like what I did is took a wingspan of my bead stringing material, and what I've been using is the Wildfire number 0.006. It's a 10-pound breaking point in this beige color. And what I did is took a wingspan so that I could get through all of my beads without continually changing out my needle. And I have just a little stop bead here, and like I say, these make up so fast, and it's such a great way to get a little peyote stitch practice in, and it's so uncomplicated. And these little beads add so much texture to a design. Like I'm just putting my stop bead on down here. So let me just pull this in again. I mean, I just love the texture that you get from a little tiny bit of bead weaving. So for my friends who say, I'm just going to watch you, I don't ever do needle and thread anything, I really hope you'll reconsider that, because having this little bit of a skill, it just adds so much to your designs. I just love it. Okay, so this is so easy, you guys. What I have my Azuki bronze seed beads out here for is to make the loops on my bracelet. So I'm just going to set those aside, and I'm going to go ahead and dump out what's left of my Delicas that were in the box. I just absolutely was just in love with this color of the Delicas. And I don't remember where I got these, but if you like my gold, they are galvanized champagne, and it's just an 11-0 Delica, and that's what you see like on the ends of my tiny little cylinder bead. So this is super easy. I'm going to put 12 beads on, starting with 2 gold. So 2 gold, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 2 more gold. 11, 12. Bring that down to your stop beads so it looks like this. 2 gold, 10 of my colored, and then 2 gold. And then I'm going to hold it so that I am working toward my stop bead, and I'm going to pick up 1 gold and start my peyote stitch. So I'm coming out of this gold and I'm going to go through the one right above it to start my peyote stitch. And you guys that are familiar with this, you know that the first row of peyote stitch is, you have to like get it in there. There's not a lot of leverage, but my needle is going through the gold one, the second one in the row, and I'm just going to pull, 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 pull. And this is where you want to do whatever you have to do to get it started. Give that a little tug, and you want to pop that bead that you've just added so that you have 2 beads sitting beside each other at the bottom of this row. So give it a little tug, use your needle, use your fingernail, but you want it to look, try to get it straight, you want it to look like that. So as you do peyote stitch, you have 2 beads, then 1 bead, and then we want 2 beads, 1 bead all the way up. So my next bead that I'm going to pick up is going to sit right in here. So it's going to be my colored bead. So I'm going to pick up one of my colored bead. What was the name of these? Delica 11-0, but they were called opaque glazed burnt orange. I just absolutely love the color of these beads. So if you want to go on the website and see if they're available, that is the color if you didn't get the box. So I'm going to skip over the next bead. Skip over the next bead. I've been trying to get my fingers out of the way. Skip over this one and put my needle through the one above that. So with peyote, you do every other bead. And what I find is putting my thumb, so holding my work between my thumb and my forefinger as I pull, really helps to get that bead into place. So I'm going to give it a nice tug. The other thing I have found on making these little cylinder beads is that a little bit of tightness, a little bit of extra tension really makes them nice and firm. And so what that does is it pops that bead into place. So you can see my pattern emerging. 2 beads, 1 bead, 2 bead. And I'm going to pick up another one of my burnt orange Delicas, skip this bead and go through the one above it. Always skipping a bead on peyote stitch. And I put my thumb and my finger over my work because one of the things that happens is that the peyote likes to twist on this first row. And so I'm giving it a nice tug because, as I said, for a cylinder bead, that little bit of firmness is really useful. And I'm going to continue that way until I reach those last 2 gold beads. Just picking up a bead, skip the next bead, go through the one above it. These work up so fast. And I'm giving, and like you can see that I'm giving a nice tug, and that just makes your cylinder bead nice and firm. Give that a tug, pull that bead into place, and now I'm at my gold at the top where the gold is, so I'm going to pick up a gold bead. I'm going to skip this one, which will put my needle going through the last bead on the row. And I'm going to pull. And this is even count peyote, if I didn't say. So turning around on even count peyote is really easy. I'm careful not to go through my stop bead. And again, I'm on that little gold band that I've created. So I'm going to pick up 1 gold bead. And now my needle's going to be going down through the gold bead that's sticking out. And just give it a nice tug. So I have continued with my 2-1, but now this becomes super easy. Once you have those first 2 rows in, now it's super easy. I can see that I'm on my burnt orange, so I'm going to just pick up a burnt orange and pop it into that negative space and put my needle through the sticking out bead. And I'm going to do that all the way down. through the next sticking out bead, and do that all the way down until I get to my gold, and just repeat, repeat, repeat. And I did my little beads 7 rows wide. You need an odd number of rows in order to seamlessly zip this up, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So this is my 3rd row, so I only have 4 more rows to go. Like I said, this works up so fast. I know my fingers are a little bit in the way, but there's what I'm looking like, and I'm here where my gold ones are. So once again, I'm going to pick up a gold and just put my needle through the sticking out bead, which happens to be the last one on the row. And now I'm ready to turn around. So now this is the sticking out bead. I'm going to pick up another gold and go up in the direction of my stop bead and pull tight, pop that into place so it looks like that. And I'm going to continue just like that until I have 7 rows. Super easy sticking out bead, pick up a bead, and I'm just, looking at the color that I want to add in. Okay, this is my last one, my last gold one. And so what I have is an odd number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 12 beads this way, 7 beads that way. And the reason for that is to create that zipper effect. So let me pull my stop bead off now. And to zip this up and turn it into a cylinder, I'm just going to fold it in half. And here's where you'll see that you have a sticking up bead here and no bead here, a sticking up bead here and no bead here, and vice versa. So I'm coming out of this bead, and to zip this up, I'm going to go through the sticking up bead, and I'm going to zigzag back and forth now to the right side of my peyote, put my needle through, and then go over to the left side to the sticking up bead, and you just zip it up like a zipper. And sometimes you can go at a diagonal like that and pick up 2 at a time. This is like super fast. Just go right to left, right to left, just zipping it up just like that. These little cylinder beads are adorable. They make up so fast, and they just add so much to a design. Like the texture that you get and the shape is so cool. Okay, so I'm coming out of the top one, and I want to make sure that it's seamless. So I'm going to go back down through this one on the end. And again, I want to zip up. So I'm going to go at a diagonal to the next bead. And then I'm just going to weave I made a loop. Don't make a loop. I'm just going to pull this tight and weave my thread at a diagonal so that you don't see the thread. Just weave it into the cylinder, just like that. Now, if you want to put like a little GS Hypo cement, that's sometimes what I tend to do when I'm making beads. But I'm just going to weave my thread through and just hide it. You can change direction of your thread, and it's pretty secure. And where the tail is here, I'm just going to melt that off. Go through a couple more beads on my cylinder, and pull my needle off and just get rid of that thread. then that cute little cylinder bead is done. And like I say, a little bit of tension on these beads is just wonderful. So let's have a look at the earring. We'll do this earring first, since that was what I needed that last bead for. Let me put some of that's all the beads I have left of those Delicas. I just love them. I used them in my first project, and I also have another pair of earrings designed with the beautiful red leaves that were in the box, because I thought that since there was, let me pull my first project in, I thought that since there was a little bit of red in my necklace, and I even put one of those red leaves in my fringe, that I would create a couple pairs of earrings. So I made my own ear wires for this pair, and they're ready to go, but I'll show you what I did. I'll make some ear wires for this other pair. And that's just an extra little sample bead. To prepare this little cup button, I'll show you the back, and there's the front. To prepare it, I actually have just a scrap of 24 gauge wire, and I'm going to put the wire through the top of the two holes. Well, what I'm deeming is the top. And then I'm just going to bring it up like that and get my pliers in here and bring those two wires together. Just pinch them together right at the top, just like that. Get them going, get the wires going in the same direction. And then I'm going to put my button in there and start to twist. Just get a nice even twist. That is way more than I will need. So I'm just going to come and trim away those wires. And now I look at the orientation of how I need that loop to be going, and I need it to be parallel to my mat. So I'm going to come right here and bend that, bend it a little bit more, and come in with my round nose pliers and do like a nice medium-sized loop. And here, this is your choice. Like if you want to create a simple loop, I'm just centering the loop on my button. So from here, I can come and snip right there and have a pretty textural twisted loop, or I can get a hold of that loop and wrap this around. And I think I'm going to do a wrap. I want to redo this one. I wasn't really happy with the way that it turned out. That's why I was hesitating, because I am going to redo the button on that one. And just get your wrap in there. With the twist, you know, it's you never really know how it's going to land, but I'm going to kind of tuck it under a little bit and just get my wire to looking the way that I want. That's really pretty. And just come around to the back and snip and just tuck that cut in as best that I can. So pretty and textural. And I am going to rewrap the one that I did on my first earring. I wasn't happy with the way it turned out with the twisted wire. It's like that sometimes. So that's ready to go. And now I'm just going to take a little scrap of 20 gauge wire and grab my 1.5 millimeter one-step looper, put my wire in just past the back cutter. It makes a fresh cut, makes my loop. Gonna grab my nylon jaw pliers. It's a downward, like a stick part of this earring, so I want to start with a nice straight piece of wire, and I'm just using my tool so that my loop is centered on that wire. And then I'm going to copy the stack that I did here. So I had one of these little crystals. These were not in the box. I added those in from my stash, and then one of these orange rondelles that I just love, and then a little disc spacer, and then my cylinder bead, and then another disc, and another bronze crystal. And that is my little earring stack. I always double check myself. And again, I'm going to do my loop in exactly the same direction as this one. This time I'll use the guide hole on my tool. My wire's coming out the guide hole. I'm going to gently close it here. I've pushed this so that my bead is right up against the jaw, but I can watch to make sure that I'm not damaging my bead or putting any undue pressure. And I'm going to pull my entire stack down as I close. And now from here, I'm going to just make sure that everything is not misaligned. Everything is straight and perfect, just like that. And when I take it away, I have my little earring component and everything is ready to attach. So I'm going to take a jump ring and attach my cup button to the bottom of that little stick part. And then I'm going to take the little ear wire that I made, and I'll show you how to do these, but I created this so that the opening of the loop on the ear wire is to the inside. So when I look at the front of my earring, it's just seamless. So it's a little tricky to open these when they're created that way instead of on the front. You have to reach in the back, and then I of course want to attach it so that it's the front of my button is facing forward, and just get in there and close it really well. Little bit of work hardening, and that gorgeous earring. It's so dangly, that's so beautiful. I absolutely love my little set of earrings. Okay, let's jump to this pair of earrings. These are also just super simple. It's just a little stack, but on these, because I wanted my maple leaf to be facing forward, I started with a simple loop in my wire, and then I did a wrapped loop at the top, and that just secures my maple leaves so that it's not always spinning. So let me grab a piece of wire. Starts out the same way with a simple loop. And so I'm just going to stack my maple leaf on, and the beads that I have here are just elements from my necklace, again because I just thought I wanted to have a coordinating earring. So some of the embellishments in my necklace, I had pulled in some little burnt orange 3mm check glass fire polish, and so I'm just like repeating those colors on my earring. Did this a couple of days ago, so I want to make sure that I'm doing the same thing. And then I'm going to come here and get a hold of my wire at the top of my stack of beads and put a 90-degree bend, but I'm bending it in the same direction as my simple loop. And then I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers and bring this over the top barrel, rotate my pliers, bring this wire around, and I'm gonna roll my wrist back and just do whatever I need to do to center that loop on my stack of beads. So when I take my round nose pliers away, I have a really beautiful simple loop. And I'm just gonna grab that loop and wrap down to my first bead, one wire coil laying right beneath the previous. And when I reach the top, here's where I want to bring this wire around to the back and situate so that my maple leaf is forward. and I'll come to the back and snip my wire. And then I'm going to really gently tuck that last wrap in line, just gently. Just like that. Just line up my loops, and so my maple leaf is now really secure facing forward. And now I'm going to take an 8mm jump ring, and this is done out of 22 gauge wire. I made these and they just fit really easily through the little leaves that I've added in. And I'm going to add that to the front so that my leaf is facing forward. There is kind of a front and a back to those little check glass leaves. And just work hard and make sure that jump ring is a perfect circle. And so that little leaf earring is done, and so I'm going to take a couple of little scraps of wire to make the ear wires, and I'm going to come in again with my one-step looper and get my first simple loop. And I'm not straightening the wire this time because I need to curve it. I'm going to do the same thing on this side, on this one. And then I'm going to use my 6-step bail making plier, and you can use whichever step you want. I think I'll use the second to the largest this time. And so I just want to, I'll close this even though I'm going to open it again, but just to keep everything straight. I want to see where the opening of my loop is, and it's right there. So I'm going to put it in my 6-step bail making plier so that when I look at it, the opening of my loop is going to the center of the curve that I'm about to make, if that makes sense. And I'm just going to wrap this around that smallest, I'll turn it this way so you can see, around that the size mandrel that I want. You can push it in a little bit, and when I take that away, I have this really pretty little ear wire, and the opening is here. So when my beads go on, the front of this is just really seamless. So I'm going to do the exact same thing on this one. I like to make sure everything is straight before I put it in my tool, because then I don't have extra straightening to do on the back end of creating these ear wires. So see how that's askew? I'm going to just make sure that everything is really straight and lined up. Turn it this way so you can see, and wrap that around. And then I'm going to take my cutters and use the bottom of my loop as a guide. So just right about there, and snip. I'll do the same thing on this one. Just use the bottom of my loop there as a guide and snip. And then I like to use my flat nose pliers, and since these are so small, I'm going to put my end of my wire in about halfway and just kick that out a little bit. So it just made this really pretty petite little ear wire. And you know, like these I did, let me do this one and I'll show you the other pair. I did them exactly the same, but I changed my size a little bit. So these I did exactly the same, but see how they are a little bit larger. I used the larger step on my bail making plier. So you can really, you know, kind of scale your ear wire to your earring. And this is super simple. You can use like a metal buffing block, like I have this one from Vintage. You can also use a diamond nail file, but I have this little battery reamer with the wire rounder attachment. Whoops, slipped. So the wire fits in this little cup on the end, and you just press the button and go around a few times, and it takes all the sharpness off of your craft wire where you've cut it. It's a very professional way to make your ear wires, and it's just absolutely perfectly smooth. I just love it. And then again, super simple. Reach inside here And you know, it's not wrong to do the opening of your ear wire. Like in the marketplace, you see ear wires made a plethora of ways, but I just like to do it this way. You also see them with, and I do it depending on what my earring dangle is. You also see them with your loops, like, you know, parallel to your mat, where you see the opening of your ear wire loop on the side. But look how sweet that little earring is. They're so gorgeous. Since the name of the box was called Leaf Season, it's so sweet to have that beautiful red maple leaf and then a little tiny leaf dangling at the bottom. Those are so sweet. I actually love both pairs of my earrings. Okay, I have two number 2 crimp tubes out here, and we got these beautiful Azuki seed beads in the box. They're 11.0 dark bronze, and I'm going to set this aside. And I just did my stringing right on my spool and clamped off this end. And this is a pretty good bracelet length for me. I can get by with about a 7-inch bracelet, 7 1/4. So this, once I put my clasp on here, I think it's going to be absolutely perfect without an extender chain. So I have a little bit over 6 inches on my pattern here. So I think it's going to be perfect. So I'm going to leave it on the spool while I put my number 2 crimp tube on this side. And then I'm going to just string on some of these Azuki seed beads to the size of a loop. That is 9 seed beads, and that just makes a really nice loop. You can also use a wire guardian for this. You could also use some French wire. I thought about doing the French wire, but these Azuki seed beads match my bronze crystals that I put in everything. So I'm just going to pull that so that I have a really nice little loop here. And I'm going to use my magical crimping plier. So I'm going to come right here, careful not to crush my seed beads, and fit the number 2 crimp tube squarely in the divot. You really have to take your time and make sure you feel, like I just felt it slip right in the center. Then when I close the tool, I've created a little square with 4 pinched corners, and now in the opposite direction, squarely in the center, close the tool that way. And then just maintain that spot and go around a few times, opening and closing your tool. If you take it out and you didn't form it into a little bead, I did, but you can always fit it back in and go around a few more times. And I just love that method of crimping because that number 2 crimp tube looks like an 11.0 seed bead. It's magical. And then let's see if my crystals will fit over my cut end. Ooh, it does. That always makes me so happy. You can come back and put a crimp cover over that if you want to, but it's not necessary. And I'm just going to pull this out a little bit, give myself a little bit of working room here. And just repeat the same thing on this side. My number 2 crimp tube, 9 of my Azuki seed beads. See it peeking out there. I'm going to get a hold of it, hold my loop, and just pull, 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 pull. And before I crimp, I want to make sure that I have a nice fluid bracelet. It's nice and soft, but no gaps. Very carefully not to crush my seed beads. I just felt my crimp tube go in the center, close down. I've made a little square with 4 pinched corners. Turn it in the opposite direction, squarely in the center, and close in that direction, and just hold that little spot and go around. Okay, it's a nice secure crimp. I'm going to sneak under here and trim this. So the reason that I have this little lampwork bird out here is my darling friend, I've gotten to know her through jewelry and through my YouTube channel. She sent me this gorgeous little lampwork bird, and I was thinking that he might make a really pretty charm on this bracelet. I'm not sure if I'll do that, but he's so autumnal and he's just so gorgeous. So I kind of had him out here for inspiration, and I'm going to grab a couple of gold jump rings. There are little tiny jump rings on this clasp, but I think I'm going to, maybe I'll try leaving them on there and looping this jump ring through. I don't really need the extra length, but you can always remove one, but I'll try that way. I like for a bracelet to be really easy to clasp, or I will end up not wearing it. So it looks like that. There's really no side to this that's left or right. I'm going to pop that on and close it really well. And I'm going to come to this side and do the same thing. And this beautiful piece is done. Look at that. Isn't it gorgeous? I absolutely love it. I love the texture. I love the turquoise and the orange and the autumnal colors, but I love the texture of the disky beads and the cylinder beads, and I love the mix of the gold and the bronze. It's just an absolutely stunning, stunning piece. And I have to think about if I want to put a little lampwork bird on there from my friend Dorothy. But I thank you so much for watching. If you tap more underneath the video title, there will be a link to Potomac Beads, to the treasure box if you would like to start receiving it monthly. But you can also use my link just to get to the website and shop for supplies. They have a wonderful selection of Delica beads, of check glass beads, of clasps. These clasps are there, and the cabochons, and like all kinds of seed beads. The Azuki seed beads are there, but they have Toho and Miyuki, and they have crystals. If you like my bronze crystals, they have a whole section for crystals, and you can choose from rondelle, bicone, cube crystals. Like, it's such a very well organized website. And Potomac Beads also has another box called the Kit Edition. If you love projects with patterns where all the supplies are already accumulated for you and ready to go, that is a wonderful box to receive every month as well. So you can access that with my link too. I hope everybody's really enjoying the autumn weather, and I will see you guys in the next video. Please take a second and give my video a thumbs up or even a hype if you see that new feature. Thanks a lot, everybody. Ciao, friends.